What's good, YouTube? It's Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to you with a quick video on what to expect from the Houston Rockets. This is one of the most popular teams in the league, and James Harden, Chris Paul is going to bring a lot of excitement to the team. They're going to be must-watch TV because of Chris Paul and James Harden being on the same team. But I'm just going to say what I expect them to do, what they should do. And this doesn't include any trades that happen after this video. This doesn't include injuries. This is just predicting if they stay healthy, what they can achieve in the regular season and in the playoffs. So this is just my analysis on that, factoring in how the roster is right now and no injuries. So this is basically the dream of a perfect season for the Rockets. The biggest question is, can Chris Paul and James Harden coexist? Because they both ball dominant players, yes. Because remember, Russell Westbrook couldn't shoot when James Harden was in OKC and they still was able to win 50 games. James Harden was still able to win Sixth Man of the Year with Russell, with KD, and that's two players that need the ball. KD can score off the ball too, but Russell Westbrook was a player that needed the ball in his hands, and James Harden still was able to win Sixth Man of the Year, still put up 19 points a game, and he was still able to be effective with a player that couldn't even shoot. The thing about it is Chris Paul actually can shoot the spot up three. Chris Paul can actually knock down the mid-range. Chris Paul can come off screens, and Chris Paul can create off the dribble for James Harden, who can shoot the three in the mid-range too and attack off the dribble and get to the paint and kick out to Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, and Trevor Ariza. So with that being said, this can work because Russell Westbrook was a significantly worse offensive player at that time than Chris Paul is now. But obviously Russell Westbrook has improved. But with that being said, that was then. James Harden only has gotten better. And Chris Paul, even though he's on a decline, he's still one of the top 10 players in the league at this point. And he played with Blake Griffin. They was able to win 50 games every single season, and that's including injuries. And Blake Griffin was a player that can feed off Chris Paul, just like James Harden can knock down the mid-range, knock down the threes. He can also create his own shot for other players and create his own shot for himself, whether he's in the post or off the dribble. So Chris Paul already played with a player that needed the ball in his hand, which was Blake Griffin, and he was still able to make it work because he's an unselfish player and he's a player that can continue to keep everybody involved. Even though Chris Paul is a player that's more ball dominant in general, they can relieve each other from the duties. Remember, Jamal Crawford used to come in the game and he used to be a ball handler. That can be the same thing James Harden can do because James Harden can score just as good as Jamal Crawford. And it still worked when Jamal Crawford and Chris Paul was still on the court. They was able to still play together and switch off the ball handling duties. A lot of people forgot about that Chris Paul played with Eric Bledsoe, Chris Paul played with Darren Collison, Chris Paul played with Austin Rivers, and sometimes Chris Paul will play off the ball then. He didn't do it the whole game, but it was instances where he played off the ball. And like I said, James Harden did it in OKC and was able to win Sixth Man of the Year with two other ball handlers in KD and Russell. And he was still able to get his points. He was still able to do it efficiently. And he was still able to do it and win games. At this point, Houston, this team is deep. Obviously, they lost a little bit of their depth when they traded for Chris Paul. They gave up a lot of good role players. They gave up a lot of quality players, but that's what you have to do to get a superstar. And on top of that, they still have Nene. They still got Ryan Anderson. They still have Eric Gordon. They still have some pieces. Luke Richard Bamute. They have PJ Tucker is another player. They still have Trevor Ariza to fill in that three spot. They still got the lob player in Clint Capella who can protect the rim, who can rebound the basketball, who can finish at the rim. And that's 8 deep. That's all you really need when you're going into the playoffs, but they can go deeper than that because I haven't really seen all the players on this roster play, so I don't know who they're going to be playing at that moment, but they can go 8 to 9 deep with the roster already with quality NBA players that can come in and contribute and play together. So I think the Rockets are definitely going to win over 50 games. They won over 50 games without Chris Paul. They won 55 last year, and they had a whole new roster built around James Harden, and they was able to gel quick enough to win 55, and they was able to get to the second round of the playoffs with a whole new core built around James Harden in one season. If they can figure this stuff out, they will only be under the Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs. But they have a chance to surpass the Spurs depending on injuries and depending on trades and depending on if they can get that third guy, which they was trying to get Carmelo is what I'm saying. If they're able to get that, they will be better than the Spurs. But as of right now, they're just as good as any team in the West, but they still need that one piece in the playoffs to beat the better teams, which is Golden State and the Spurs. So right now I have them third. They're going to probably win close to 55 plus games, if that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because this team going to be hard to guard, just like last year. But they're going to be even harder because they still have the floor space and they still have the two-way players. And Chris Paul adds to that. PJ Tucker adds to that. And they still can space out the floor. And now they have a player that can actually take other players out of the game and still be able to dominate offensively and make James Harden's job easier. And that actually helps take off the load from James Harden, and that eases off the wear and tear on his body, because James Harden had to do so much last year that I was surprised that he didn't even get injured, because they relied on him so much and he was so tired in the playoffs. He had to settle for spot-ups, kick step-back threes just to serve and preserve energy. And now he doesn't have to do that because he has another player that he can trust and another player that he respects and another player that he knows can deliver, because Chris Paul has been one of the best players for years, and he has earned that respect from a lot of basketball players in the league and a lot of players that's coming into the league. So now with that takes off a lot of wear and tear off James Harden, and it helps the miles on that body, because James Harden, he's an old 20-year-old player because of what he had to do with the Rockets. Eventually, I think they'll break through and win a championship. If it's not this year or next year, eventually James Harden will lead them to a championship, because Daryl Morey continue to put talent around James Harden. Eventually, they will break through. I do think this team is guaranteed to be in the second round. I don't know who they will play, if they play the Spurs or they play the Warriors. If they play the Warriors, I think it goes 6. If they play the Spurs, it might go 7. And either, like I said, we can't really predict what the trade deadline, and we can't really predict who get traded or if they make the move for Carmelo. So with that being said, I can see either or San Antonio winning the series or the Rockets winning the series. But if they play Golden State in the second round, I think Golden State wins that series, honestly. But if they play the Spurs, they have a shot to go all the way to the Western Conference Finals. That's all I got to say. They got the weapons, they got the floor space, and they got the ball handlers. They got the ability to score at will. This team is going to be virtually unguardable. It's going to be unfair playing against this team, because they got Clint Capella to finish at the rim, Ryan Anderson, Trevor Ariza, James Harden, and Chris Paul on the wings. They all can shoot the three. They all can handle the ball to a certain extent. They still got Eric Gordon coming off that bench. They got PJ Tucker, a two-way player that can shoot the spot up three and defend other small forwards and shooting guards. And on top of that, they still have Nene, another big body that can come in, do the pick and pop and the pick and roll. And this team is going to be tough, and you have to give them that credit, and you have to give them that respect, because that's what they deserve. And with that being said, Quinn Wade, Basketball Analysis, signing out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Check out my website, AnalysisPlayground.com. The link will be in the description and in the comment section. Also, check out my Facebook page, AnalysisPlayground.com. All you have to do is click the link in the description and in the comment section, and it will send you to my Facebook page. All I'm asking you guys to do is like it on Facebook to show support. Quinn Wade, Basketball Analysis, signing out, and let me know what you guys think about James Harden and Chris Paul, Houston Rockets this year.